I want to talk about what's happening in this Congress, or better yet, what's not happening. We have to pass a continuing resolution so we can fund this government. That means all the functions, whether it's air traffic controllers, whether it's building our highways, whether it's FBI agents, whether it's paying Social Security, all the things that we do, Medicare, we have to pass a continuing resolution to keep this government going, sending meat inspectors out to make sure we don't get poisoned and the rest, you name it. And where is the House? All spending bills have to start over there. The Republicans control it. They have not sent us a continuing resolution. We also have to make sure that we pay our debts, just like all Americans. Debts that we voted for, whether it's military spending, domestic spending, spending to help our farmers, spending to help recover from Hurricane Sandy. We have to pay our debts. And to do that, we have to increase the debt ceiling. October 15th, it's coming. If we don't do it, if the Republicans play games, we'll see a crash in the stock market. I'm sure every American looks forward to that. They're not doing their work because they're obsessed. They're obsessed with repealing a law they have tried to repeal for 41 times. They're obsessed. They tried to get it overturned in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said it's constitutional. They're trying to take away a law that is helping every American. And I'm going to talk about it. They're obsessed. And they refuse to understand that raising the debt ceiling is not about future spending, it's about past spending. So their reason is they're very upset about the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, however you want to call it, and they're very upset about the deficit, which has come down by half from its height with this president's leadership. So here's the thing. I do a lot of speaking to youngsters in school. And when I explain to them what the role of a senator is, I say, in essence, it's to make life better for the people. That's what I think it is, and to do it in a smart way. And to work with your colleagues to make sure you can compromise and get things done. Whether it's building highways or making sure our ports are dredged or funding the military, we must work together. No one gets everything he or she wants. That's life. You have to compromise. You can't be an ideologue and say, my way or the highway. And to go after a law that was passed years ago, that you tried to repeal 41 times and failed, that you tried to overturn in the court and failed, and then not to do your most fundamental responsibility of keeping the government open? There's something really wrong about this. Now, let's take a look at this economy. Why are they so upset at what the president has been able to achieve? President Clinton left office with a surplus, over $200 billion. Remember that. 8 years later, President Bush left office with a $1.3 trillion deficit. I won't go into why, because I don't have the time, but that's the fact, and no one can erase it from the books. Since President Obama took office, the annual deficit has been cut in half. It's less than $650 billion. And yet they're willing to shut the government down by making believe no progress has been made when we have cut the deficit in half. And we're trying to get out of a disastrous recession. Under the Clinton administration, the economy created more than 20 million private sector jobs. Under George W. Bush, we lost 665,000 jobs. Remember, Clinton, millions of jobs created. George Bush, the Republicans, hundreds of thousands of private sector jobs lost. And under Obama, we've added 3.9 million private sector jobs, coming out of the worst recession since the Great Depression. You can say what you want, but President Obama and the Democrats here, even though it has been a bear to do it, we've managed to wrap our arms around this recession and get us on a course. Now, how about housing? Home prices are up more than 12% over the last year. Home sales have increased 47% since their crisis low. Recent housing starts are up 75% from April '09. Housing was the cause of this recession. People sliced and diced mortgages and sold them on Wall Street and brought everything down. Deregulation, that was the Republican mantra. It went too far, and we lost our way, and people suffered through the worst recession since the Great Depression. The Republicans, instead of working with us to keep the progress up, want to shut the government down, want to say we're not going to pay our bills, even though they voted to rack up those bills. Look at the auto industry. In '09, the auto industry lost more than 100,000 jobs. Rescuing the auto industry saved more than 1 million jobs, and the news is great coming out of Detroit. People are buying cars. The Republicans put it all at risk by shutting down the government and not paying the bills. There are going to be no more bailouts. I was so proud. I offered the First Amendment. I think my friend remembers. No more government bailouts of the big banks. So we're on our way to saying once and for all, we're not going to let this crisis happen again. The stock market. Do you know the Dow fell to 6,500, Mr. President? Since then, it's rebounded to 15,000, 2,000 points. But yet they'll put it all at risk because they're saying they're going to play games, shut down the government, not pay the debt. The last time they played these games, the Republicans, GAO found that threatening to breach the debt limit cost the Treasury $1 billion just in 2011, and over the years, $18 billion over the next 10 years. The next time a Republican tells you how fiscally conservative they are, ask them why it is they added $18 billion to the debt by playing games with the debt ceiling. I want to quote Republican President Ronald Reagan, one of the heroes of my friend's party. He said the full consequences of a default, or even the serious prospect of a default by the United States, are impossible to predict and awesome to contemplate. Denigration of the full faith and credit of the U.S. would have substantial effects on the domestic financial markets and the value of the dollar. That's Ronald Reagan. In 1983, he said even talking about a default has terrible consequences. They're not even talking about a default, they're planning for a default. My friend, who is such a great leader in the Senate, Senator Durbin, you informed us, and Senator Reid informed us, that the Republicans in the House have a bill that they love. We call it Pay China First. If there's a default, they'll keep paying China the interest we owe them, but they'll default on all the Americans here and all the contractors, the highway contractors, the people who dredge our ports. They'll default on what they owe the American people, but they'll pay China. Douglas Holtz-Eakin, the CBO director under George W. Bush, said, default, it's a bad idea. Little defaults, big defaults, default's a bad idea, period, and there should be no one who believes otherwise. He said that in 2011. There's no good thing as a good default. Now, I've shown you how far we've come with this economy. If we don't have the far right of the Republican Party taking America's country hostage, we'll continue to grow this economy. But if they play games and try to shut down this government, it could all turn around. If they play games and they try to default on the debt, they could turn it all around in a bad way, and we'll see the results. as Social Security recipients start to worry, as Medicare recipients start to worry, as contractors start to worry, as federal FBI agents can no longer get paid, and it goes on and on and on. Now, one of the reasons they're so crazed is they are obsessed over the Affordable Care Act, which they call Obamacare. Now, I want to, in my time, tell you what the Affordable Care Act does, and see whether you think it's worth shutting down the government over this bill. They tried it 41 times, but 42 they hope will be their winner. Over 1 million Californians, this is just in my state, are already newly insured. 3 million young adults are now insured through their parents' plans in this nation of ours. 3 million are now insured. 400,000 in my state. 71 million Americans are getting free preventative care like checkups and birth control and immunizations. They don't like that, I guess. They're willing to shut the government down over it. 17 million kids with pre-existing conditions like asthma can no longer be denied coverage. Insurers can't cancel your health insurance because you get sick. There are no more lifetime limits on coverage. And anyone who's had a catastrophic disease knows it's pretty easy to hit that cap. No more caps. No more caps in a year. No more lifetime caps. This is what they're so obsessed about. So they're willing to shut down the government to take away these benefits? Now, they all said, oh, healthcare costs are going to go up because of the Affordable Care Act. Well, guess what? Healthcare costs are growing at the slowest rate in over 50 years, Mr. President. Insurance companies now have to justify their hikes. Before, they just hiked your rates and they could do it with impunity. Now, insurers have to spend at least 80% of your premium on your medical care, not on overhead. They can't pocket the money. They have to spend it on health care. And 8.5 million Americans have received rebate checks from their insurance company because they were overcharged. Is that what the Republicans are so upset about? They're willing to shut down the government to take away these benefits from the people? Insurance companies can't deny coverage or charge more for pre-existing conditions. They can't charge women more than men. There's no more discrimination. And, again, in a single year, they can't impose dollar limits on you. So I'm going to say this. The Republicans are upset about the deficit. The deficit's been cut in half. I would ask for 3 additional minutes.
Is there objection? It's ordered.
The House has voted 41 times to defund the Affordable Care Act. They took it all the way to the Supreme Court. The Republican attorneys general, they lost. And they made it a centerpiece of the 2012 election. And they lost the presidential election. And now they're willing to shut down the government unless they get their way. So I would conclude by asking some rhetorical questions here. Why are the Republicans so obsessed with kicking young people off their parents' insurance? Why are the Republicans so obsessed with stopping preventive care like checkups and birth control and immunizations? Why are Republicans so obsessed with repealing benefits that guarantee insurance coverage for children and adults with pre-existing conditions? And why are they so obsessed with stopping 13 million people from getting insurance who never had the chance before? And why are they so obsessed with stopping 24 million people from getting insurance under the new state health exchanges? And why are they so obsessed with allowing an insurance company to cancel a policy the minute someone gets sick by stopping that practice? Why are they upset that we are stopping that practice? Why are they so obsessed when we say you can no longer have an annual dollar limit on benefits? Why do they want to change that? And why are they so obsessed with saying to insurance companies, you can't have lifetime limit on benefits? And why are they so obsessed that finally we stop discrimination against women? You know, being a woman was considered a pre-existing condition, honestly, and you had to pay twice as much as a man for your health care. And if you were a victim of some kind of spousal abuse, that was considered a pre-existing condition, and your rates went up, or maybe you never even got insurance. And I gotta say, finally, why are they so obsessed about doing away with the Affordable Care Act when CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says it will save, Mr. President, $109 billion over 10 years and over $1 trillion the following decade? I cannot answer these questions. All I can think of is, it's politics. It's politics. I've been here a long time. I'm proud of it. I thank my people in California for allowing me to have this honor. There were many laws I didn't like. Believe me, I served with 5 presidents. I didn't agree with quite a couple of them, 2 or 3. But when I lost a battle, I didn't try to shut down the government. When I lost a battle, I didn't say we can't pay our debt. Oh, maybe I voted once or twice as a symbolic vote, but I knew that the votes were there. And so I would say to my friends, get over your obsession and proceed with your responsibilities to keep this government open. Forget about repealing a health care law that's about to kick in, that's good for the people, and pay your debts. Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
President.